Hello everyone, this is Louis, and in this video I'm gonna be showing you how to edit an existing concept art to make your own concept for a 3D model. In this case, I'm gonna be doing a concept art for Bard from the Hobbit trilogy. So I've gathered a lot of different references, a lot of different concept arts made for the movie, and I'm gonna use this concept as my main basis for the model, but I'm gonna make some changes and I want to produce a concept art first of the changes I want to make so they're a bit easier to reference in the future. So I'm gonna be using Photoshop. So let me go through a few things that are useful about setting up Photoshop. So for the windows that I use, you call the tabs. So I just like to have channels, paths, and layers. And for your layers to make it a bit easier to see, you can right click here and have large thumbnails. So that's gonna be easier to identify your layers. And also you can change to clip thumbnails to layer bounds. So it's just gonna show you the specific layer and not the whole image. Um, Here I have a few concepts that I'm gonna be using to edit this uh, my main basis for the concept art, and you can rename it here. I'm gonna rename it by double clicking on the name. I'm gonna name it reference 2. So I'm not gonna be using a lot of tools here. The tools are on the left here. I'm gonna use a brush with a low opacity. Right now it's at 35, and I'm gonna use a clone stamp. Where's the clone stamp? Clone stamp is right below, and with full opacity. And so I'm just gonna go get started. So I'm gonna right click in the here. It's still a background layer, so I'm gonna right click and make layer from background. Just call it my base. So the first thing I'm gonna do is make a new layer from, because this is on the belt is on top of everything. So I'm just gonna make a new layer from that. And yeah, I'm gonna use the lasso tool, just the polygonal lasso tool. You can use the magnetic lasso if you want to make like more like detailed selections, but I don't really need to, so I just use the polygonal lasso because you just really just want the rough shapes. So yeah, all done here. So I'm gonna right click and click on layer via copy. So that's gonna make a new copy of my belt on top of everything. So I'm gonna switch back to clone stamp, and I'm just gonna make just fill it out because some of the fur is on top of the belt. Another thing that I like to do is go to here, view, show, and I think normally there's a show extras that I untick. that I don't use. Okay. So by pressing Alt, I I select the origin and I copy it. So you can see, for example, here, I can make an example. So this is gonna, let me select the layer. So this is gonna make a copy of those pixels in another place. So by pressing Alt, you press the origin, and the origin remains the same, but your brush, you can move it. And you can press Ctrl Z, Ctrl Alt Z to undo everything, or you can go to your history and go back a few steps. Here the hardness of the brush doesn't matter too much, but you can select a softer brush or a harder brush. So here just roughly just take out some of those fur on the edges, and you can use an eraser with a high hardness to shape it a bit more. So that's it. Um, then I'm gonna just remove some of these extra fur, and this kind of looks a bit irregular, so I'm just gonna use the clone stamp to make it a bit here. I can actually use lower the opacity a little bit. Just gonna remove the amount of fur on the concept because it's a bit too much. I want to keep it, but make it a little bit more discreet. And here, for example, I'm probably gonna try to move it a little, so I'm gonna make a selection. I use a feather. You can right click and select feather, so that's gonna make your selection softer. Let's use, let's say 5 pixels. Sorry, feather, then layer via copy, and I'm just gonna move it a little bit to the left here. So I just want to make it the edges of the coat more uniform, so they're a bit straighter. So yeah, that's roughly what I want. Here as well, this time I can use the clone stamp to move it a bit to the left. I'm just gonna keep trimming it. Increase the opacity a little bit. And I'm doing everything with the mouse. You can use a tablet or Wacom tablet if you want. You can use the mouse. The mouse works as well. Since we're doing a low poly model, and even in a high poly model, you're not gonna you're gonna use other systems to make the fur. So in this case, the fur is mostly gonna be present on the texture, and you don't want it to be too big. Otherwise, it's gonna look a bit strange. In a high poly model, the you use some kind of fur effect that's the same that you use for hair and other stuff like that. You can use it for fur as well to create 3D fur. So here's almost done. And then it's gonna have like all those kind of edges. Just want to make it look a bit nicer. Can continue using the clone stamp for this as well to clean up the edges. I'm gonna remove those as well. So you can see I try to use different origin points for my clone stamp. And just work it from there. And you can use the brush as well. You can use the brush with a low opacity. You also use the Alt key on your keyboard to set the origin, set the color of your brush, and do some painting like that. I think the hardness is really high. Yeah, so there's this big one. This big patch. Here I think you can use a brush. It's fairly even. There's not a lot of shadow. You can even increase it a little bit. You might hear my mouse clicking, so it kind of resets every time you click, so it reapplies the color that you want. So let's see, looks fairly good. Yeah, I'm gonna also remove these straps. I'm not gonna model those, they don't really look that good. Yeah, I think I can use the brush. So yeah, the process is fairly simple. You don't have to use too many tools or anything too complex. So it's just gonna take a bit of time to clean up. The cuffs as well. prefer to have a smaller cuffs. Here for the, not sure how I'm gonna do these gloves. Probably gonna make it all fur. It's probably gonna look a bit better, but I'm not sure. Let's see how it looks. I'm gonna use the brush again. Doesn't look amazing, but still fine. You don't want to like make a piece of art. This is just to help you. So overall, this concept is kind of, it looks a bit drab, a bit, you know, a bit like a hobo. So make him, it's nice to make him a bit more, look a bit more distinguished. Yeah. So you can switch between your brush and your and the clone stamp as you see fit. So yeah, much smaller cuffs, like this kind of glove. The probably gonna try to make. Let's see if I can make like a small brush, increase the opacity a little bit, increase the hardness, mm, make it even smaller, less opacity. Nah, it doesn't really look that good. Okay, let's move to the other hand. Yeah, that's fine for now. Let me do something here. I'm gonna select the string of the bow, and I'm gonna make a new. This is the belt. This is the string. So now I've already selected the color I want for the coat. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a selection for his coat here. Try to be as precise as I can, but you don't have to be extremely precise with your selection. Try to select kind of around the fur. So someone might say, why don't you use the magic wand? But since the everything looks kind of brownish, it's gonna be really hard to make a decent selection by using the magic wand. So this is just easier. And you can press Alt and remove some of the selection that you don't want. So here that's the right side of his jacket. Again, I'm gonna right click and make a layer and move on to the other side. I've already made a layer for this string, so I don't really have to worry about it. If you press the delete key, it's gonna go back on your selection, so that's kind of useful if you want to undo one of the points that you're selecting. So if you want to make a really precise selection, I usually use the pen tool. That's why you have the paths, because the pen tool is gonna make a path. So yeah, the pen tool is a lot more precise with your selection if you want to make some kind of detail on your texture, for example. And it's gonna be really good for that. And those kinds of Bezier curves are used everywhere, really. So for example, like a movie that has a lot of rotoscoping, you're gonna use something similar to the pen tool, but they're used in different softwares. So yeah, I have the two pieces of my jacket. I'm gonna join them by pressing Ctrl E, and they're gonna make a single layer. They're gonna join the layers. check. Let's say it's a coat. And if you press Ctrl and you press on your thumbnail, it's gonna select it for you, so you can check on your selection, make sure it's everything's good. So yeah, so it looks fine. So I'm gonna go to layer effects and go to blending options and color overlay. So let's go to color overlay and check on our options. So for the blend mode, I'm gonna use color, and I'm gonna click on the color here just to choose, and you have a little eye drop here, that you can select the color you want to use. I've already selected the ones I want to use, so this is the one, and press OK. That's it. So it's changed to a blue color. So yeah, the color, it's gonna overwrite the color information in existing on the pixels. So it's basically, it's gonna ignore that color and replace it with a new one, but it's gonna maintain all the shadows and the highlights. So yeah, I'm just gonna adjust the pants here because I'm not gonna use the inside that much. I'm gonna replace it. So again, with the brush tool, you can Uh, I see what I did wrong here. I was wondering why it looks so blue. Yes, because I have the wrong layer select. So I'm gonna delete it and just go back to my proper layer. So it looks much better now. Yeah, I'm smoothing out all the rough edges, but I'm still keeping some roughness to the concept that I might want to reflect it once I do the texture for the model. So okay, for his jacket, for his for under the coat, I'm gonna use this concept and make a chainmail shirt that he's gonna, and I'm gonna keep the color as well, so that he's using made so that it looks like he's using a chainmail shirt underneath. So that's one of the reasons that I chose this concept to do it like this, is because I want to Actually, let me go back. I'm gonna add some feathering as well, just a little bit, maybe like 2 pixels. So that I can show different kinds of textures, different kinds of modeling, but mostly the textures, so that the so that I can show how to do cloth, how to do chainmail, how to do leather. So right now I reposition it so it's below the coat, and I'm making it larger. So you just have to play around a little bit. You're gonna use I'm using free transform so that I can adjust it the way that I want it. So here it's gonna roughly follow the shoulders. Uh, I think this is good for now. And I'm gonna make a mask. And this time for the mask is black and white. And I'm gonna go full opacity here. So the black brush is gonna mask the layer, so it's gonna basic erase it, or but it's easier this way than using the eraser tool. I'm gonna lower the opacity of the layer so I can kind of see what I want to mask. So if you if you right click on your layer and you unlink it, where is it? No, not disable. Okay, if you have just have to press the little clip icon between the mask and your layer, and you can keep your mask in the same position and move just your layer, and it's gonna maintain the position of the mask. So for now I'm gonna keep it unlinked. Not here on his end. Okay, again, I'm a fool. I was clicking the wrong thing. So make sure you're doing your brush strokes uh, on your mask and on your layer. And here, if you need to make some adjustments, you can go back. I can raise the opacity again. And here, if you can go to channels and click on the layer mask, and you can disable your RGB channel, and then you can just work on your mask. To see any problems you might have, any gaps that you need to kind of fill in. Or you can just click it and it's gonna paint it in red. So I'm gonna go again to this concept, and I'm gonna do the same thing for the other side. Yeah, I'm gonna right click, free transform. So here again, align it with his shoulders. I'm trying to align with my previous work. Again, I'm gonna click here next to the layer effects. I'm gonna click on the layer mask. gonna unlink this one and I'm gonna reposition it a little bit. Make it a bit larger. So again, I'm gonna lower the opacity and start masking it. Yeah, I'm gonna go back and try to redefine a little bit a color here. Yeah, I'm constantly changing settings. Just try to get this done reasonably quickly. Here I'm gonna use the burn tool to make it look a bit darker. Yeah, I'm adjusting the levels just a little bit, so it's also gonna sharpen it. Sharp, unsharpen mask. I'm gonna use the burn to adjust the levels. So I want a different color for his shirt. Um, this time I'm gonna do it a little bit differently. So if you make a selection and you want to add to the selection, you click on Shift. You only need to click on Shift once. I probably need to correct some things here. Let me make a layer first. So I'm gonna create a new layer and I'm gonna right click. I'm gonna fill it and I'm gonna select color and I'm gonna select this color. Okay, so it's just gonna use a flat color and I'm just gonna change the blend mode of the layer so it's on color. And here, yeah, gonna extend it a little bit here. This one, gonna use the mask to try and remove this kind of bright spot. This I'm not sure where it's coming from. The jacket maybe. Yeah, here I just can use the eraser. So yeah, roughly you already have your main concept. So I'm gonna click on my second reference and I'm just gonna use it for the belt. I'm also gonna transpose some of these details again using the lasso tool to make a rough selection. So I double click there, which ends my selection. And I did it by accident, but yeah, I forgot to mention that if to get your to finish your selection, you double click and it's gonna finish it. You probably also can press enter, I'm assuming. Let me check. Yeah, you can just press enter. It's also gonna finish your selection. And I'm gonna use layer via copy. Let me use a bit of feather as well. Small feathering. So the feathering creates a bit of a fall off, make the edges softer. And the more feathering you add, the softer it's gonna look. This belt is really long. Yeah, you have to be careful about where you put your position, your layer. So if something is on top of your layer, it's gonna be on your pixels are gonna be on top of it. If it's underneath, it's gonna be underneath. So you have to be careful about the your layer organization here. I don't really know if I need to make it smaller. I think a thick belt is fine. Just don't really like the really long belt here, so I'm gonna make it, maybe cut it to about half. So I'm gonna use a layer via cut. So I'm gonna cut it to a new layer and reposition the tip of the belt and place it further up. I'm just gonna use the eraser to make it mesh a bit better. I'm using the burn tool to burn a little bit, and I'm gonna use warp by right clicking to make this part a bit thinner. So yeah, when you're burning, you can use midtones or highlights. Uh, midtones is gonna burn the color as well. So the highlights are gonna keep the color. It's gonna preserve the original color a bit more. So yeah, gonna make it a bit darker using the levels in image adjustments levels. And again, I'm gonna make it less saturated by going to image adjustments, hue saturation. So I'm gonna adjust the hue so it's looks less red, and remove the saturation for about 30. I forgot to merge them, so let me do that after I make the adjustments I want again. So to about 7 and reduce the saturation by about 30. And I'm gonna merge them by clicking both. You click both by having shift. Let me do that again. You have shift, you shift click both, or control. Control also works to select multiple layers, and then I press Control E to merge them. And here again, I could probably use a mask. For the edges. And let's see if it's not. Yeah, you can see a little bit there. Can use the burn tool again. So yeah, you can see the big belt underneath, so I'm gonna take care of that using the clone stamp. To the other side. So yeah, looks better now, and can also use the burn tool to add some shadows where I want some shadows. So yeah, the last thing I want to do is to add some of these details to the cuffs. I'm just gonna select them. Can use some feathering and layer via copy. And let me extend a little bit. I think I can use luminosity, and then you can use it either use a mask, or let me adjust the color as well a little bit, make it a bit brighter. Can use the eraser tool or use another mask. Can use another mask just to be safe. So the upside of the mask is that you can adjust the mask, you can delete it, redo it. Here I'm gonna go to noise, and I'm gonna reduce noise. Here I have strength 10, preserve details 7, sharpen details 8. Just gonna leave it at that. Has some nice details here. This one seems a bit more difficult. Let me use feather again. And I probably want to move the string towards the top. So I'm gonna do it like this, and I'm gonna use the clone stamp to add this lower bit. Like this, perhaps. I'm gonna reduce noise. It's a bit strange. Put less strength, let's see. Let's go to luminosity. So yeah, again, I'm gonna do a mask. Can lower the opacity a little bit. It's okay. Here, I think it's too dark. Use the levels to make it much brighter, and then I'll see if I can adjust them. This will be a fine concept to follow as well. Still looks a bit too drab for me, and I wanted to keep the fur from the coat. I think it's interesting. I can show how to texture fur. Okay, for transform. Here I think I can use perhaps a perspective. Now let's see. Can use distort to make it follow follow the edge of the coat better. It's perhaps too bright, so I can go to levels again, add back some darkness. Again, I can lower the opacity just a little bit, like 10%, so it's like at 90% opacity. And I think that's the last bit that I'm gonna do. Just gonna take a small section of the image. Yeah, I'm gonna distort it. So yeah, that's it. I can now, I'm not gonna use this anymore, so I can um, here you can click the visibility. This might still be a bit too bright. Get a bit darker. So yeah, that's it. I'm also gonna be doing the sword. You can add it to the concept. I'm gonna be doing this sword here. I'm not gonna be doing the scabbard, uh, just because there's really no place to put it on the model. I can put it on the back perhaps. Yeah, I might do that. Might look cool, just so we have that kind of extra piece of modeling and texture that I can show. It's a cool looking scabbard anyways. That I can add it to the back of the model. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you for in the next video. I'm gonna be doing the head model in Make Human.